Hi, thank you so much for joining us today. We're here to talk to you for a second about the temporary COVID aware family time plan. This plan has been developed to help guide parents, caregivers, visit providers, caseworkers, legal partners in developing a plan that is responsive to the increasing levels of COVID disease that we're seeing in our area. We've been living in a pandemic for 9 months, and it's been hard. We've had to tackle challenges we've never imagined, like virtual schooling and not being able to see each other in person. Many of us feel stretched thin and on edge, including parents and caregivers. We acknowledge that family time has been anything but normal during the pandemic. Everyone has been forced to adjust, and we're all tired. Even though we are all done, so very, very done with the pandemic, it isn't over. We're seeing record levels of COVID-19 disease in our state. This is forcing us to adjust some family time plans again. This isn't what any of us want, but it's important for us all to remember we're all in this together. Caregivers, I'm acknowledging that this is going to put more on your plate. We're asking you to do things that are going to increase your workload, like extra virtual visits, transporting to visits, that kind of thing. But we're all going to work together to try and reduce the risk and remember that this is temporary in nature.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dorothy Gorder. I'm the coordinator of Pierce County Parents for Parents program. I'm a parent and a caregiver. In March, when COVID went crazy, a lot of our family time visits went to virtual visits, and it was very difficult for people to transition. And then once we started to have the COVID cases reduced, we transitioned back into in-person visits. But now, as we are having a major spike in cases, we're thinking about reduction in transmission and making sure that all of us here in Washington State are staying safe. So a group of folks, like Katie had said, came together and put together some guidelines and some suggestions so that we don't have to completely transition back to all virtual visits. I'm coming here today to share a few different examples of how virtual visits can be a positive. I have a little girl. She was 2.5 when she came to me. Her dad was in treatment, and in order for them to maintain their bond and their relationship, we did virtual visits. And not only was it exciting for the little girl, but also her dad. Here he was getting clean and sober. He really was getting to know his daughter all over again and enjoy the excitement of being able to see her on screen and her to be able to see him. So now it's been about 6 months, and he's in a position where he comes and he takes her for in-person visits, but in between, he still does the video visits, and that's now something that's really exciting, and they look forward to that. At the beginning of the pandemic in March, I had made a suggestion to a new mom. She had a little baby, probably 4 or 6 months old, about looking into the video camera, because science says that a young baby identifies and connects through your eyes. And so I'd shared that tip with her. So when she did her virtual visit with her little baby, she looked into the camera, and the baby looked at her eyes. And then she reported back to me that after just a couple minutes of doing that, her baby was like cooing and cawing and connecting with her, making funny sounds, where she hadn't experienced that connection prior to doing that with her eyes. So this is a great opportunity to be creative on having virtual visits with your children, young and old. This is also a great opportunity for caregivers and birth parents to be able to work on a relationship. Both parties are interested in the well-being and what's best for children. And it's devastating when children then transition back home. You know, the relationships are reduced, and that's re-trauma that occurs. So if we could start now over virtual to make those connections where caregivers are being vulnerable, allowing a birth parent to see their home during a virtual visit, and vice versa. You know, caregivers are able to see where biological parents are having, or, you know, what's their background like. they can start to reduce those fears, and you guys can make connections so that when the child is returned home, you can then have a relationship with the foster family or the caregivers. We call it an icebreaker. So it hasn't really launched yet, but this is a great opportunity to get that started. So I really hope that you'll take advantage of this opportunity to be able to build relationships and to stay connected with your children. And also, you can have more frequent visits this way as well. Once you guys have started to build that relationship and the trust, people may say, yeah, let's have you call 5 times a week for 10 minutes. That would mean that you'll be able to see your child more often. And children don't really care so much about how long they see you. It's how often do they see you that's really important. So even if you only get to see your child virtually for 5 or 10 minutes, 5 times a week, that's way better than 2 visits for 3 hours in a week. I can say that that's the case, especially with the little ones that I care for in my home. They like to see regular visits and interactions. So please take a serious look at these suggestions and recommendations and see what could work best for you. Be willing to compromise. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sean Powell, and I am the King County Parents for Parents Program Coordinator. And I'm just here today to help encourage everyone to use these guidance tools. And really, as a parent, to being able to propose this as an opportunity in this time when everything is a challenge and everyone is struggling. Parents might be reluctant and feel like everything is a hurdle for them. And being able to demonstrate skills of adaptability and adjusting in a healthy, positive way in circumstances and duress, the court is going to look at that as a success. And so using this time and being able to demonstrate that you can build on the relationships with caregivers, build on the relationship and rapport with social workers and all the professionals that it takes to put visits together, whether they're in person or virtually or telephonically, and be creative with that team of people, really demonstrates some high-level parenting skills to the court. It helps to remember that we are making these sacrifices for a short time. We will get through this, but right now we need to reduce the opportunity to transmit the virus in family time visits by revisiting every case, and we need to keep families connected and children supported. The recently released temporary COVID-aware family time guidance will guide parents, caregivers, visit providers, caseworkers, legal partners in doing this. As a parent, I think that I need to hear praise for how flexible I've been in court. I need the court to recognize that it is tough and they know that it's awkward to do this. But and the caregivers, if they're in court too, they need to hear that also, because caregivers need praise as well. But I think for parents, like for me to keep doing it, and if I'm revisiting it every 3 months and they're continuing to tell me that I have to stay virtual, for me to buy into that and continue pushing through, I'm going to need some recognition.
Yep.
Or to say, yes, look what everything you've done, and look at how flexible and how much you've built your relationships, and look at the difference between your relationship with your kids now and then, or some type of celebration or honoring, or just acknowledgement, really.
What caregivers need to hear is we recognize that you're having more added to your plate when your plate's like overflowing, heaping, and things are already falling off. But that you guys are going above and beyond to keep those connections for kids and keep those parents connected. And it's awkward. You're inviting someone into your house. You're making time in a really full day for a parent to see their child. And so I think Sean hit the nail on the head. People need to be recognized that thank you for flexing.
Hi, I'm Kelly Warner King. I am the director of the Court Improvement Training Academy at the Administrative Office of the Courts. And we worked together with DCYF and partners across the dependency court system to create a 3-tiered approach to developing temporary COVID-aware family time plans. And the idea behind this was to create a process through which conversations could be and information can be shared so that a really good plan can be developed, recognizing all of the needs that the different people have and the threat that COVID poses. So the reason we call them temporary COVID aware plans is because they are intended to be time limited and to have an expectation that they will be reviewed often, because as we know, the disease is changing, the trajectories are changing all the time. And we're talking about a way to have people kind of make concessions with each other, make agreements to change the plan to address the needs for to reduce transmission, but also to remember that this is really important. Family time, that connection between children and parents and children and siblings is extremely important, particularly during this time of COVID. So we created a 3-tier plan, and the first step is to create an agreed temporary COVID-aware family time plan. And the idea is, if you can agree to this informally, maybe the social worker contacting everyone and saying, hey, we're having concerns in our region about transmission, and we want to try to reduce the opportunities to transmit during your visits. Take a look at the science. So the guidance provides suggestions for places to look for ways to reduce the transmission. That includes in transportation. Could maybe the foster parent transport instead of having a third person come in and transport? If you do need a contracted provider to do the transport, how can we reduce the amount of time kids spend in the car with the transporter, and can the windows be down to increase the air circulation? All of these things we developed with the Department of Health. And so we want to make sure that we're taking a look and seeing, given that we want to preserve as much in-person contact as we can, how do we reduce the opportunity to transmit? It may be you reduce the amount of time, the frequency of in-person visits, going from 3 a week to maybe 1 for a while, and then upping the virtual contact. So the idea is, how do we make a plan that accommodates everyone and recognizes the risks? Now, some of the things that can be done can be holding in-person family time visits outside, where risk of transmission is lower. We know that that's hard during the winter, especially in some parts of the state, but is there a way to do that? If you're going to be inside, can you be in a place that has really good ventilation? What would that look like? Again, all of the other requirements that are set up around masking and social distancing, particularly for any observers, any visitation supervisors, and the family would be still in place, and the cleaning protocols as well. So the idea is that if you increase virtual contact, if you have to decrease the in-person contact, really thinking about what that might look like. How do you do that in a way that is appropriate for the age of the child and the developmental stage of the children, so that they can really get good contact? Thinking about that might mean daily texting between a teen and their parent, or a teen and their sibling. That kind of thing that can be introduced to keep people connected. To address the anxiety and stress that's caused by all of this ambiguity, we want to make sure that you're reviewing that plan within 4 to 6 weeks to say, how's it working for everyone? Maybe the disease activity hasn't gone down in your county, but you can make a tweak to make sure people get special time with each other. Maybe it's a birthday visit or something else you want to be really conscious of. So you're coming back regularly to review that. If you can't do this by agreement, that's sort of step 2, tier 2, which would be that you come together in a shared planning meeting and really go through exploring what are everyone's concerns and needs. So we have developed a tool, the COVID Family Time Assessment Tool, that is a way to go through and have those conversations to talk about who is vulnerable in each household. What are people doing to reduce their risk of contracting and spreading COVID? How do we think about what makes sense around in-person contact versus virtual contact? Really going through those pieces to help people get through sort of some of those barriers they might have in thinking about, well, if I make this concession, what am I going to get to make sure I stay connected with my kids? Or this is going to put a big burden on me as a caregiver to have to do virtual visits for, every day. How does that work? So we're really trying to help work through everyone's needs. It's a little more detailed. It's going to take a little more time, but we've got this great tool that's available to help you go through some of that and have that conversation. Social workers can access that tool. We'll put the link up for everyone to get connected to that. And it's a great way to either walk through step by step or to at least have that tool available to help you structure your conversation in a shared planning meeting. Now, again, that plan would be a temporary COVID-aware family time plan and would have that same expectation that you would come back 4 to 6 weeks, setting that date to come back and review that and make sure you can make adjustments, see how folks are doing with it. Now, if you can't come to an agreement after step one or two, then the third option is that the DCYF counsel, the AG or the prosecutor, will file a motion with the court. And that hopefully there's information that you've gathered in this process that can be presented to the court, and the court makes the decision based on all of the information presented about COVID risks and need for people to stay connected. So that's what we created, and we hope that it will be useful. We have available on the CEDA website a lot of resources around virtual visits,